If you're a foreigner curious about buying a home in Italy, I've got you covered, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through all the steps. I'm Christina Vollezen, a licensed real estate agent in Rome with Sotheby's Realty, and I help international clients navigate the process of buying property in Italy. In this video, I'm breaking down the full process, what to expect, what to avoid, and how to make your Italian dream home a reality. So let's start with an overview of the steps. Researching and choosing your location, financing strategies, how the agencies work, and due diligence and the notary process. Before we go any further, let's clear up a key issue. Can foreigners buy property in Italy? In most cases, the answer is yes. Italy uses a rule called reciprocity, which means that if Italian citizens can buy property in your country, then you can buy property in Italy. So countries like the US, the UK, as well as the European Union have this agreement in place, but not all countries do. There's a list of countries available on the Italian Foreign Ministry website, and you can reference that, and I'll link it, so if you have any doubts, you can check that before moving forward. In the case of gray areas, you'll definitely want to consult with a notary who has experience with nationals from your country, because in the end, it's the notary who will apply the legislation. We'll talk more about them later. So keep in mind that owning property here doesn't automatically give you a visa or residency. Very often it facilitates the process, but if you want to move here permanently, you'll need to apply for the appropriate permit. That's a separate discussion for another video, but in terms of permission to buy the home, reciprocity is all you need. So let's talk about location. Italy is not one size fits all. Rome, Florence, Lake Como, Puglia, Sicily, the Amalfi Coast, they all offer different vibes, price points, and lifestyles. One of the things that makes Italy so unique as a country is how it changes from region to region. You drive a couple of hours in any direction and everything shifts: the food, the weather, the dialect, the architecture, the pace of life. Italy as a unified country is actually very young. Before 1861, it was made up of independent kingdoms, republics, and territories, all with their own tradition, language, even in some cases currency. In fact, when you speak to the older generation, they often refer to their hometown as their paese or their country. So choosing the right place is more than just about property prices. It's about the culture, the pace, the climate of that specific spot that you find and how it matches with your personal style. Rome, for example, is beautiful and grand, but also very chaotic, whereas Puglia would be a lot slower, more relaxed, with deeper ties to tradition. My advice is to spend time in the neighborhood that you're interested in, go beyond the tourist spots, live like a local until you find the place that really connects with you, that keeps calling you back. Okay, let's talk about money. A lot of clients ask me about accessing financing from local banks. It can be a complex process, though it's not impossible. As a foreigner, you'll have a far easier time as a cash buyer. Italian banks generally don't accept foreign assets as collateral for a mortgage in Italy, so you can't use your current home or assets to guarantee the mortgage. They focus on your financial standing, which you prove through your tax returns. Italian banks typically offer loans covering 50 to 60% of the property's value for non-residents. If this is a road you want to go down, you should consult with a broker experienced in international property financing. When you're considering your financing, don't forget to budget for closing costs, taxes, legal fees, and I'll go through all those costs in a separate video. Okay, now you have your budget, let's talk about finding the property. Real estate in Italy isn't MLS-based. That means that there's no central database like in the US, and agents typically will only show you their own listings. The closest thing in Italy to an MLS are the platforms like Immobiliare.it, Idealista.it, or Casa.it that aggregate listings. So typically here, you won't have the same relationship as you would with a buyer's agent in another country who has access to all the properties in the market. Here, each different property will have a different listing agent, and usually in the case of smaller listings, the agents aren't interested in collaborating with other agents. But when you're looking at luxury properties, there's a better chance that you can ask an agent that you trust and have a strong relationship with to reach out to that listing agent for a collaboration. I think this is the ideal situation because then you can use an agent that speaks your language and takes your interests to heart. Let's talk about due diligence. You find a property, you're ready to buy, and now you want to understand the kind of due diligence you should be doing. One of the main complexities of buying in Italy are the urban permits. This is what people are referring to if you hear them say the property has conformità urbanistica and catastale. The reason this can be complicated is that often in order to understand if a property conforms to the urban planning regulations, we need to recreate the entire history of the property and have the certifications for all the significant renovations that were done over the years. Properties are very old here and very little has been digitized, so a lot of that is based on literally finding pieces of paper that are archived somewhere and need to be officially requested. Or another common issue can arise when the construction of the building wasn't done exactly according to the plan that was deposited with the city, so it needs to be amended. It's hardly ever a straightforward process, and as a buyer, it's important to know that just because the floor plan that you're seeing is deposited with the city, just because that floor plan matches the property, it doesn't mean that it conforms to the urban planning regulations. The good news is that local agents are used to these kinds of complications and that the onus is on the owner to sell a house that conforms to the urban planning regulations. Having said that, when these issues come as a surprise, they can kill a deal because the timeline changes drastically from what was originally agreed upon and there can be unforeseen costs. This is definitely one of the parts of the buying process that can feel overwhelming, but in most cases, it's just a case of doing your research, having a good team behind you, and being patient. One of the easiest way to navigate this aspect of your sale is to make your offer contingent on due diligence. Let's talk about notaries. In Italy, buying a property is highly regulated, which is a very good thing. After your offer is accepted, a notary, who's a public official, not your lawyer, handles all the paperwork and verifies the titles, the legality of the sale, and they also collect taxes on behalf of the state. So in the case of a straightforward transaction, there's no need for a lawyer because the notary will handle all the legal aspects of the sale. There are practically no title disputes in Italy because of the strength of the notary system. So usually the sale is divided into two parts, and each will have their own separate contract. The preliminare, which is the preliminary agreement, and the rogito, which is the closing, the final deed of sale. In most cases, your proposal will function as that preliminary agreement. This means that the moment the proposal is accepted, it becomes a legally binding contract. Typically, you'll put a deposit down with that proposal, 2 to 10% of the value of the house, and you'll also outline the entire timeline for closing. So this is a really broad overview. There's so much more detail to go into with every single one of these steps. Leave me a question in the comments if there's something you want more information about. I read every single one, and I'd really love to know what interests you the most.